I'm going to start now with the first line of evidence, which is the history of using imprisoned people in China, and it shows how the current incarceration and forced organ harvesting from Uyghurs fits into a very systematic pattern. Now, China has a long history of using prisoners for medical purposes. For example, going back to 1940, 3 people who were described as counter-revolutionaries were killed on the orders of a Chinese Communist Party official, and their bodies were used for dissection. In 1962, the CCP started developing a policy to allow all death row prisoners to be treated according to national needs. That is, they or their bodies could be used as state resources. Organ harvesting from people called criminals started in the late 1970s. As transplant techniques improved through the 70s and 80s, the demand for organs increased, leading to the more systematic use of organs from prisoners. The desire for organs led to a change in execution practices, as the best organs come from people whose hearts are still beating. So instead of shooting prisoners in the head to kill them instantly, prisoners were shot in the right side of the chest so that they were still alive when their organs were removed. The first documented case of this happening is in 1978, when a school teacher, Zhong Haiyin, was sentenced to death, shot in the chest, and her organs removed. And Ethan Gutman reports in his book, The Slaughter, that some of the earliest instances of forced organ harvesting occurred in East Turkestan with Uyghur victims. In 1984, a regulation was passed that officially allowed the use of executed prisoners' organs. And despite Chinese government claims about reform, this regulation has not been rescinded. Forced organ harvesting came to the attention of the international charity Human Rights Watch in 1994. They reported uncovering new evidence, including confidential Chinese government documents sanctioning the use of executed prisoners' organs for transplantation. And then 2 years later, in 1996, they updated their information on organ harvesting from executed prisoners. And this was done in a presentation to the US Senate Foreign Relations Committee. The issue of forced organ harvesting received new prominence after these reports from Human Rights Watch as part of the broader debate in Congress on China's human rights record. From 2000, there was a rapid increase in organ transplantation in China. This coincided with the repression of the Falun Gong practitioners, who have been identified as the first major victim group. The second major victim group is the imprisoned Uyghur population, who have been subject to the medical tests indicative of organ harvesting. And Matthew Robertson, in his report for the victims of communism, made this point very cogently, that the coincidence of the mass internment in Xinjiang, the ongoing rapid organ availability, the blood and physical tests consistent with assessing organ health, is all tied together by understanding that the Uyghurs are being exploited for their organs. So in summary, China has a long history of using prisoners as raw materials for labour and for organs. The imprisonment and medical testing of Uyghurs follows an established pattern consistent with forced organ harvesting from prisoners of conscience.